Venerable.
Thank you, Davidson.
Mm.
So today we will continue our stages of the path, and thank you all for joining. And to begin with, we'll start with the opening prayer. To help all sentient beings across all universes, we must strive for ultimate enlightenment. The path to enlightenment begins with learning the Buddha's teachings. We are currently exploring the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. May all Buddhas, Dharma, Sangha, and past practitioners empower us to deepen our understanding of the teachings and equip us to overcome our own suffering and that of others. With unwavering dedication, one day we may achieve ultimate enlightenment and establish Pure Lands. Together, we can guide all sentient beings toward liberation from suffering and toward enlightenment. And homage to the root guru, Shakyamuni Buddha. Homage to the root guru, Shakyamuni Buddha. Homage to the root guru, Shakyamuni Buddha.
And then take a refuge.
We take refuge and generate the aspiration to become a Buddha. We take refuge until awakening in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. Through the merit of giving and the rest that we have done, may we attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Thank you, Venerable. Okay, currently we have finished the part to introduce Lama Tisha, the talk about the greatness of the author, so that we will be able to generate this confidence in this text because of the author who was well learned and well practiced and attained this not only the achievement of understanding all the teachings of the Buddha to different schools or different philosophies you can find in Buddhism, and also achieving all the realizations himself. So he will be able to show people like how to practice and give very precise definitions of all these core ideas in Buddhism. And now we are going to talk about the next chapter, which is also very important when talking about the stages of the path, which will be showing the greatness of the teachings for the sake of generating respect for the instructions. So here, because we know the author already, and then we want to know about the text.
Mm.
Okay, the author is good, but I don't know if the writing is as good as the author.
Sometimes good authors have bad books and they
Yeah.
have successful books.
Yes.
So we want to know.
Yeah, so we want to know. We
Yeah.
want to know. So, of course, this is a little bit like a
Right.
self-advertisement. It's like a lot of Mahayana sutras you
Yeah.
can find. Like they will say, if you recite the sutra, you will generate a lot of
Or it's
merits.
like the best sutra ever.
Yes, like
No
that.
other sutra is as good as this sutra. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh,
So, would this be the same case? Like, it's just like, self-advertising. So people will, once they hold this text, then we'll be treating it respectfully. But if it is the best, but a lot of the bests.
yeah.
So,
I mean, my understanding of this section too is because this is a compiled sutra. You want to know a bit about why it was compiled, how it was compiled, what the principles were in putting it together.
mhm.
Right? So we want to know the background of the text. I think that's true now when we're doing any kind of like academic study of religious text. You can't just read the text at face value. That would be, I think, like lower level reading style is just like, oh, what this book says is true. And then not thinking like, oh, there was a context that this was written in. There was like a political and social environment that this was written in that would influence the way that this was written or what the words mean. And then there's also the intention and the biases of the author. So we want to have some sense of all of this, that the author and the text itself are going in a certain direction and what is that direction. So I think when the texts do that, it shows us a little bit of what's behind the thought process of the author for sutras and for commentaries like this. Mhm. I think I pointed out, and I'll point out again, when texts say that they're like the most awesome, greatest, bestest ever, a lot of that is that we do generate a sense of respect and cherish what we're reading. And then that's important to have that attitude that we're not reading an ordinary thing. And I think if we start that way, that I'm not reading an ordinary thing, we can get out of the mindset that is only reading as like a kind of entertainment or looking for some just all the reasons that are wrong and I'm right. All these kinds of maybe hypercritical or nonchalant ways that we might read a text. So I think it's not bad. I think, like you said, we can recognize that pattern though, of what's happening.
Yeah, and then the other part I would like to mention would be, of course, every text that you can find, the teachings of the Buddha,
Mm.
of course, the best.
Yeah.
From the best enlightened practitioner in the whole world, of course. This teachings will be the best.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they are all equally
The best.
the best.
Right.
Yes. So, of course, like when talking about this particular text, and I will say this is the best,
Mm.
and the other one also the best.
And the point that text didn't really these texts, ancient texts, weren't being like printed and mass produced. So when someone received a text, it was actually quite rare. And you could say, oh, it's the best because I've received it, right? And it can address my afflictions and my ignorance. And so that indeed is the best thing for you at that time, and maybe there's another time where you get another text, but people weren't, for the most part, accessing unless you're like kind of a very special elite thinker, like the people writing these, they generally were not accessing so many texts like we are now. They might, come across a few texts that they spend their whole life studying. So in those cases, yeah, it's very much a precious thing. Yeah,
Okay, thank you,
yeah,
Venerable.
thank you.
So, the first part will be talking about the Dharma or the teachings. So, what the teachings are coming from. There must be a source. Of course, this is based on Lama Tisha's work. So, this will be the first line, which, okay.
So as for the teachings, the source text of the present instructions is Lamp on the Path to Enlightenment.
Okay, so we know that okay, it is based on this on the path to enlightenment or land for the path to enlightenment. This text, written by Lama Atisha, and so this is something like based on. It's not like coming from this Lama Tsongkhapa, like imaginary writing. Yeah, but based on something and to talk about. It's also important, like Tang says, like if you're going to teach or going to share something, you must based on something to talk about. So that one way, like this is something like people will have confidence in this. Like, okay, you are basing on something. It's not like just coming out of blue or something
It's connected.
is
Right.
connected, yes. And also like to show the sincerity of this speaker, like he's sincerely or she's sincerely wanting to share something based on a text. Yeah.
Mm.
So I've participated some of this Rinpoches, some of the Rinpoches Dharma gatherings. They all will be introducing certain text instead of like just randomly pick up a topic to
Mm.
talk. On the other hand, like in Chinese Buddhism, you can find a lot of like this kind of like random talk. Just pick up one topic and then start sharing.
You can find it in all kinds of Buddhism.
Okay.
I'm not gonna shoot everyone down, but it's not just the Chinese traditions, but I think
Okay.
all kinds of Buddhism. This kind of random talk is quite popular. I don't think it's necessarily bad. I think it's very relatable and accessible to folks that maybe don't have a ton of time to be committing or putting into studying a text completely or thoroughly. And I think it's also very good for people that are new to Buddhism,
Hmm.
and they want something like, oh, here's a clear topic I know about. You're going to talk about anger, right? Or this kind of experience. And I know what that is. And so I want to listen because I can apply that to my life.
Hmm.
Versus if I said, oh, we're going to talk about, I don't know, seven important practices from the Bodhisattva Arya Charya, da 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 da, like a bunch of Sanskrit words. Um, Most people are just going to glaze over and not relate to what that is.
Mhm.
So I think that's to, balance it. I think it's useful and has a place, but if that's all that we're doing, then that's not so good either, right? We
Mhm.
should eventually use that to lead towards a textual study
Or
way.
it's sometimes, of course, like some of the speakers or Dharma teachers, they will, kind of like recite a verse
Mm-mm.
or just like a chapter, kind of like memorized, and then sharing that first and then start to explain. That
Right.
is also good.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm basing on this to share the Dharma with you.
Right.
Yeah, so that's also good.
Here's my experience or insight on this particular text that I'm
Mm.
studying. Like there's again a root or a source, versus just randomly discussing ideas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this will be the first, and then the
Oh.
second part.
Although Joel composed numerous texts, the lamp on the path to enlightenment is their perfect completion, like a route, as it indicates all the points of both sutra and tantra in summary fashion. It is complete in terms of content. As it makes the gradual taming of the mind its topic, it is easy to put into practice. As it is ornamented by the instructions of the two masters who were skilled in the systems of the two trailblazers, it is a particularly noble system compared to others.
Okay, so this is talking about the presentation of this text as the three uh, complete, easily applicable, and particularly noble systems. So like 3 points. Um, so according to Rizal Rinpoche's commentary, like we can dive into this
Sure.
this text here.
So the specific teaching introduced here, the instructions and the stages of the path, is based on the lamp of the path to enlightenment, composed by Venerable Atisha. Among the numerous treatises composed by the Venerable Atisha, the lamp on the path to enlightenment is the most fundamental and complete, possessing three distinct characteristics. So one, it summarizes the essential points of both the Sutra exoteric and Tantra esoteric traditions. Its primary focus is the sequential training or taming of the mind. In contrast, a text like the Pramana Vartaka, Commentary on Valid Cognition, is largely dedicated to refuting philosophical positions of other schools, which makes it more difficult to apply directly to meditative practice. And the third point is it incorporates the instructions of the two great masters who are experts in the lineages of the two great trailblazers.
Okay, so specific teaching, talking about the Lamrim, the stage of the path, and the reason why it's complete, is easily applicable, and also is particularly noble system. Yeah, there has this three explanations. So first one, it says like it's essential points of both Sutra and Tantra. But this text, as I know, only discussed or explained the three scopes, the lower, the medium, and the great scope. So these are the three scopes. But there is actually another book focusing on Tantra stages of the path to enlightenment. So it also written by Lama Tsongkhapa. So it says like this book, this particular uh, essential teaching is it seems like the case, right? Is this is like it isn't actually mention about this tantric teachings.
Lamp on the path. Lamp on the path doesn't.
Yes, yes. So
Yeah.
this is not talking about
Stages.
the stages of the
Yeah,
path.
this is
This is
lamp on the
talking about
path.
the lamp for the path.
The
Yeah,
stages
that's
of the
right.
path. That second book is like the stages of mantra or something. At
Yes,
the
yes, yes,
yeah.
yes.
Um, But I think you can also say that the essential points of both are mentioned because to practice Tantra, you have to have the other stages as well. Those are essential points.
Yeah, yeah. So
So,
that's a
right,
fundamental path
right.
or the shared path. So it's not like, okay, we only talk about like Mahayana teachings, and also to have recent renunciation or pursuing higher rebirth,
Mm,
not any like specific teachings on tantric practices. But no, this is also like sheer path for those who are about to practice this tantric path. You have to based on this. Yeah. So if we are talking about like shared teachings, then this must be also part of the tantric teachings. Yeah. So that's the first part. So that's why it is complete. It is complete.
mm.
And I also have a question, like when we talk about the complete, I don't know, is this really complete? Because, there are so many texts in Buddhism. Like compared with other religions, you have only one Bible, which is very important, like, com encapsulate a lot of teachings already
Mm.
from Jesus in Christianity and Catholicism. So, and then, of course, you have Quran in Islamic religion, but in Buddhism, you have so many texts, and you are talking about this booklet and or okay, it's not booklet, like 3 volumes.
Mm.
Or yes, it is a booklet because we are talking about Land for the
Yeah,
Path.
yeah, sure.
And but it can summarize all the teachings of the Buddha. Is that true? Like complete?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we think of complete in the sense of hitting the major points in outline or structure, then it goes from the most ordinary or immediate need up to enlightenment. It's not complete in the sense of it's covering the essential point of every single sutra and text ever, but it's giving the overarching structure,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think in that sense, yeah, we can say complete.
Yes, yes.
But also, I mean, we could also just be what do you say? It's the term insider's point of view. That yeah, we always are gonna say our texts are complete and perfect. Just like someone that follows the Bible or the Quran will be like, yeah, this is a complete text. From their point of view, that would be true. I think the other reason we can say complete is if we have trust or confidence in these masters, and we can say that they're highly realized. Then I would have confidence then that what they wrote was complete in the sense of leading them from their own practice to their high state of realization.
Mm. And also, Lama Tisha himself, he also well learned from many, many teachers, 153 or 57, like a lot of teachers. So during the time, and they were all very good teachers. And he was also a very good student. So he learned all these from different traditions and then brought them together and then composed into this Land for the Path to Enlightenment. Also solved a lot of problems at the time in Tibet, like a lot of questions they would not be able to answer. But Lama Tisha, based on this writing, this work, will be able to answer all these questions.
Mm.
Yeah, and then brought peace to different traditions at the time in Tibet. So that's why we can, from that point of view, we can say that this is complete. And I also noticed that Venerable, you have been to different traditions as well. Would
Sometimes.
that be would that be also helpful for us to talk about like when listening to certain kind of like teaching and saying like if this is complete or this is just like partial teachings, would these kind of experience would be helpful uh, to see more clearly on the teachings of the Buddha?
Having variety of teaching
Mhm.
styles. I think so. I think the more experience you have listening to different teachings, you can kind of understand what's being said. Not that you're comparing in order to refute or say, oh, this person's a good teacher and this is a bad teaching, and but you're getting different parts and pieces, and you're getting parts of a bigger picture.
Hmm.
I think my experience with that has shown me like, oh, when someone's speaking, sometimes I'm not all the time, but sometimes I can be like, oh, you're coming from a certain perspective that is partial, perhaps, or um, valuing one thing over something else. So it gives me an ability, I think, to assess myself based on my own limited experience, where they're coming from a bit. Um, I think it might be similar like if someone's teaching you something, like they teach you elementary school math, and they tell you this is math. This is the whole thing, and you've completed the courses on math in school, and you have that basic curriculum. And then you'd go and teach it, right? But someone that does like advanced math, right? They hear you speaking, and they're like, "Oh, you're speaking from this level of knowledge, right?" Rather than from something that might be more complex or deeper or bigger. Um, I think sometimes that shows up in our language and our teaching, but you wouldn't know unless you either studied a lot or saw various kinds of teachers and teachings. If your only exposure was this kind of everyday off the cuff Dharma talk, then you would think, oh, this is how Dharma is. This is the whole thing, right?
Hmm.
Versus if you've studied in depth the text, and then you might see how some talks are just parts of a larger picture.
Hmm. And also, like you've learned so many different accounts or different ways of interpreting certain idea, like impermanence, for example, and then you will know more from different perspectives, and then to explain this important teachings of the Buddha. So that brings the completion of like understanding these teachings well. It's like in Confucianism, we say, you know one thing from 10 different
Right.
perspectives.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not only like two perspectives, but 10 perspectives. That means it's not like you're counting, oh, what perspective you have until 10. No, it's like, from every possible angle to explain this text. So we can bring people like more like how say a full picture of of certain teaching.
Mm.
And also like when we talk about middle way, yeah, like middle way, sometimes we thought like, okay, so you shouldn't be too extreme, not this side or that side, not to the left or to the
Right.
right, middle to the middle. But is that the case?
No.
No.
And we're not saying just be lukewarm, water, room temperature water. Or as I joke about middle way when I hear that. So the middle way to eat rat poison is to only eat, 50% of a lethal dose. Or, if you want to commit middle way murder, just half kill somebody, or I rob you, but I only take half your money, so I'm not too extreme. So you can, I think when we start looking at middle way as meaning moderate only or average or something like this, it's going to very much matter what the topic is, what the condition is, and our own subjective concept of what extreme is. So I think when we're talking about middle way in the Buddhist sense, it's about the nature of reality, that there's two truths happening. There is a conventional truth and an ultimate truth. And then within that, we want to avoid the extremes of nihilism, like nothing has any meaning, it's all empty of any value. You're gonna be born and then die and go into a black space. And that's it, this kind of very dark and materialistic viewpoint. And then the other one being, it's all one, beautiful. We're all part of God's consciousness. We're all deeply connected and eternal. And, I'll just be going forever and ever and ever in this beautiful journey, this kind of eternalism. So that's what we're talking about middle way, as the middle between philosophical views of eternalism and nihilism. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and also like when talk about like the completion part,
Right.
like we talk about complete. That means like if you only complete in this much, then you can find okay something like appropriate or some methods only this amount of
within that.
knowledge
Right.
within this. But if you have more, and then you know, okay, which part will be appropriate, which part will be,
Mhm.
more precisely on the target to solve certain kind of afflictions and problems. But if you have more, like so this like you have more of this the understanding of certain teaching, then you can actually when talk about like when you try to help someone and you know, okay, there are so many methods or there's so many ways to explain for this person to understand, to
Mhm.
comprehend this way of practicing. So so this complete can be important, when talking about the middle way, because the middle way, for my understanding, will be precise and more on the spot, more appropriate or on the right, like right place, right
Mhm.
time, right reason to solve that problem
Mhm.
specifically. Yeah. So it's not like, okay, I have a teaching called the middle path and it can apply to everything. It's not like that. It's
Mhm.
like once you have more understanding of something,
To be more
then
exact.
yeah, be more exact. Exactly. Yeah.
Can I be the bad guy again?
Yes, please.
Some people may say
Yeah.
that, more is not more, that less is more, and that we should not be trying to get more information and more teachings, but
Mm,
actually we should just focus on maybe just meditating only and calming our mind, and then naturally wisdom and knowledge will arise in a spontaneous way, and we will know exactly what to do and how to approach a situation. And so, once you have a little bit of teaching, that's kind of all you need. You don't get too bogged down with texts and books and theories and ideas and debate, because all of these are just, more ways to elaborate on the ego and the self.
hmm
So I mean that seems like that particular style. I'm not putting it down, even though it might sound like it. It's just my voice. That particular style seems like it's in contrast to this particular style in the Gelug and Tibetan traditions in general. Even I'd say some of the other Chinese philosophical traditions, where they're much more about discussing and elaborating and defining terms and understanding them through many, many angles first. Well, why is this happening? What's going on here?
Okay, so talk about like less is more.
'Cause-
This is one way to
mm,
look at things. Sometimes like less is more to talk about making a spaceship, for example.
mm,
They won't agree with less is more. They will agree. Yes, of course, we shouldn't bring all the materials, all kinds of materials into
mm,
one spaceship, of course. We should precisely select those that are needed for making a spaceship, so that
mm,
we bring all these together to make this spaceship workable, will be able to, complete the mission in the space. So, yes. Less is more, but what kind of less you're talking
mm,
about? Like a precise points, probably. You have all these like key elements for that thing to work. To talk about simplicity or to talk about this less is more, like we also have to look at one perspective, like are we a simple or very you know, that's this very existence is this very simple thing.
mm,
Existence. This is not very simple thing. It's very complicated. We have all these different organs and like one organ having problem, going to the doctor. And after diagnosis, the doctor will come up with a lot of assumptions. It's not like only one possibility, for this organ to have trouble to your body. So for that, I can't just say, okay, less is more, so I only give you one pill and then you will solve all your problems. Yeah. So that will be one way. So less in terms of what? What kind of less we're talking about? Like making a spaceship, of course, less is more. Like you can't put like too many electricity or generators, electricity generator on a spaceship, it won't be able to fly. Or yeah, what to remove. So we can talk about lessons more, or to talk about like, okay, so this very substance, this very existence, is this simple? So that we can only use one method to solve all the problems like that. So this will be my take. Yeah. And in terms of like teachings of the Buddha, if this is so simple, then why Buddha had to spend like 50 years to explain?
Why?
Yeah, like Buddha should say, no, we should, get rid of everything. We should just meditate.
Yeah, he would have just taught one method and
Yeah.
given one kind of speech. Yeah,
Yeah. And then to
over.
talk about like all the teachings of Buddha are important. And then why you only emphasize one.
Yeah,
But then when the Buddha went into the forests and then met a lot of these ascetic practitioners, and they've taught so many simple methods to him, but they were not really working at the time. So the Buddha decided to leave this forest and then started to kind of like contemplate on what would be the reality of the universe. What would be the essence of one to liberate from all suffering? Yeah. So this is also another perspective to look at. Yeah. So talking about the teachings here, based on Lama Papanka, talking about okay, so when um, the Dharma we are going to practice should have been spoken by the Buddha and discussed and proven by the Indian Pandits. And then our practice must be one from which the great adepts derived uh, the insights and realizations. Okay, so why divide it into these 3 points? Why?
300 points.
Yeah, like this. Why these three? But that not like four or five, or maybe just two, or maybe
Two.
1 point is enough, but three, and it must be these three, which also very crucial when we talk about Dhamma. Yeah. And this will be a very good way to validate or to make sure if these teachings are accountable to really listen to and follow.
Right. I don't know why three and not four or one, but I do see what I was saying earlier about you know, using materials from people that were realized is more reliable than using materials from someone or some source that doesn't have any background to it, or it's their own, unique or proprietary idea. So when it's connected to something, we know that there's some sort of um, what do you call it? Reliability, right?
Hmm.
There's a foundation there. So even if it's a little off, it still has some benefit because it's connected to something that was in the right direction. Versus just, some random person on YouTube, hi, that is like talking about an idea they came up with, or, they were in meditation once and they saw some colors and then now they have a vision and you should do this thing too. And, pay them or whatever, right? So here we have a body of work, a body of practices that people have engaged in and verified. And I think that gives us more security in what we're doing.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay, thank you, Venerable.
yeah,
So, firstly, why the Dhamma have to be spoken by the Buddha? Of course, we're learning Buddhism,
right,
so this must be the teachings from the Buddha,
right, right.
yeah, the original teacher or the real guru, Shakyamuni Buddha. So of course, that's the first criteria that
Mhm.
we when we talk about Dharma or Buddha Dharma. Secondly, why this will should be gone through or verified or proven by Indian or now like Tibetan as well, like Tibetan practitioners or these great scholars. This is because they have debated,
Right. Over and
yeah,
over and
they
over.
yeah over and over, and then analysis, through analysis to come up with all these like precise points on how to cultivate, how to contemplate, and how to apply them into our own practice and daily lives.
This
Yeah.
is also how they determine whether sutras are useful or correct or valid is through this kind of debate process because sometimes sutras appeared. And then through debate, people, say, well, actually, a lot of this seems to kind of go against core Buddhist principles once we start looking into it, right? And so we could say this is maybe not a Buddhist text, but there maybe is some value to it in some other area.
Hmm.
But they kind of verify through this process as well, because it wasn't until like 100 years later that stuff started getting written down that the Buddha said. So there has to be some sort of process of continual verification as new works are produced,
Hmm.
whether ascribed to the Buddha or someone's authored themselves.
Yeah, and so also Rizal Rinpoche mentioned like this pramana method, this
Like,
valid
mhm.
connection. This is also like through logical analysis, so that we know, okay, these is accountable. This is something like is not contradictory, but is reasonable. Like we listen to this and we practice in this way, and that will be more closer to what the Buddha was intended to tell us. And also, uh, because we don't know if this is, like spoken by the Buddha, so that we supposed to listen to. No, like I don't know why should I listen to the Buddha and on this? So through this logical analysis or explanation, then we know, okay, so through this perspective or through this way to look at this teaching, then we understand, yeah, this is valid, this is reasonable, yeah, and that I should follow like that. So that will be the second criteria. And the third one will be like derived from all these great practitioners' insights and realizations. So why?
Well, so you applied it. I mean, if you look at that it's first we said it came from the Buddha, who we acknowledge as an enlightened being, right? And that's been verified through logic and reasoning by many scholars over periods. And then that's been further verified through the practice of these practitioners and adepts. So we know that it, was alleged to be said by the Buddha. We verified it logically and philosophically, and then that's been further verified through the application and then the actual attainments of people.
Yeah, because sometimes like philosophy can be perfectly,
Yeah,
logically
but
correct.
falls apart once you
Yeah,
use
but
it.
falls apart when you use it.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly. So we have to have all these like historical evidence
evidence.
of all these like great practitioners. They applied, they practiced, personally practiced, and then they generate these insights. To be able to solve a lot of problems for people, or to reach realizations, and then we'll be able to show us like these are really workable
Yeah, it's
teachings.
effective.
Yeah, effective as well. Okay, so that's why it's three, these three. And when talking about all the Dharma, that will be the criterias that we can verify. Like when someone is going to give you a Dhamma talk, you can pay attention. Like this is really coming from the Buddha, and then there must be a citation, like talking about this is coming from certain sutra or
Sutra,
shastra, from the from this pandit or like a great commentator in the
yeah,
past,
master.
a master, and then they debate it, and you can provide reasons. And then you have all these examples, like great people, and they have practiced. And then that makes us feel like, okay, this can be practiced. This can be used in my life like that. Okay. So, and here it says like two trailblazers. And then we have covered this. So please, Venerable, we can finish this part.
Two great trailblazers refers to Nagarjuna and Asanga, and the two masters refers to Vidya Kokila, the younger, and Master Sirlingpa, Dharmakirti of Suvarnadvipa. Vidya Kokila was a master of the lineage of the profound view passed down from Nagarjuna. And then Sirlingpa was a master of the lineage of vast conduct passed down from Asanga. Because Venerable Atisha received both of these vital transmissions directly from these two masters, his lamp on the path to enlightenment integrates both traditions, making it superior to other instructional systems.
Yeah, so why like we have to have these two trailblazers, and they even give this example like, and you see these birds have two wings. You
Mm.
can't just eradicate one and then say okay, the bird can
Yeah.
still fly. Yeah, why coming with this like two?
Each of them had a different specialization, one being on the philosophical view and the other being on the application or practices. And they both taught methods to come to their particular conclusions. It's not to say that they weren't good in the other thing, but the primary teaching or works that they did highlighted one aspect. And so having them both together, both viewpoint and the doing is very complete. Uh, or like you said, like a bird, right?
Mhm.
You're able to move towards the goal or destination of realization.
Mm. And also like this Madhyamika Prasankika, because it has no how say fixation on any like intrinsic nature of anything. Yeah, so you kind of like negating
Right,
from a distance and also not falling into any extremes.
right.
Yeah, or any like assumptions. Yeah, so you will be able to see things more clearly, um, and you also will be eager to find reasons. Yeah, like okay, why you say so? Because I can't just like believe in
Mm,
you, just like first listen to you and then I start to believe. No, I have to be very careful with what you are presenting, and then I'm not falling into it yet.
mm,
But with this, and then I keep digging and trying to find out what would be so-called like that, so, like from the point of like two truths,
mm,
like conventional. That how would I be able to make use of these points, like you are
in a
emphasizing,
practical way.
and yeah, in practical. So this will be the prasankika part. And as for this vast conduct, that means that practices that all these teachings coming from Sangha or originally coming from the Buddha, more like as a bodhisattva. How would I be able to like gradually attain enlightenment
Mm,
eventually? So they provide this very precise and very clear path for us to follow. Yeah. So within this lineage, within this heritage, then we will be able to learn like how, as a bodhisattva, we'll be able to eventually attain this ultimate enlightenment. So this will be so we also learn like okay, so when talking about Trilimba, we talk about why this Lama Tisha spent 12 years under him to study how to generate aspiration to become a Buddha.
mm.
So uh, immediately we will know that actually when talking about vast conduct, because they would say, okay, to compare with these two, more like ultimate, you
Has to be
know,
better, right?
it has to
Yeah,
be the
it
best.
says
And
ultimate.
now the ultimate should be the Prasankika, no,
Mm,
Madhyamika Prasankika,
mm,
according to Lama Tsongkhapa. But no, Lama Tsongkhapa said like these two are equally important. Yeah. So of course, ultimately, you shouldn't be falling into any like assumptions or assertions. But when talking about this gradual path to enlightenment, here
mm,
under this lineage of a sangha, we will be able, to have very clear instructions. Yeah.
mm.
And here it says like making superior to other instructional systems. So we have to look at this part from, yeah.
So from the collected works of Jetsun Losang Norbu, Master Atisha's lamp is superior because it contains the specific bodhicitta instructions transmitted by Master Sri placing it above the small vehicle or Hinayana. Furthermore, it contains the Prasangika Madhyamaka view transmitted by Vidya Kokila, placing it above the tenets of the Svatantraka and all lower philosophical schools.
Okay, so talk about like why superior than like Hinayana even again, a
Mhm.
small vehicle. So, for a lot of practitioners, following this tradition, they would not agree. So why this Justin Longsung
Like
Norval said so?
in typically this broad category, and again, it's not a specific tradition, but this broad category of motivation, the Hinayana, is to attain nirvana for oneself. And so it doesn't include these teachings on bodhicitta, because to attain nirvana for oneself doesn't mean that you're becoming a Buddha. And we can even see in that the Buddha's past lives, he was a bodhisattva, right? So he had some sort of aspiration to become a Buddha and teach and benefit many beings. But those teachings are not explicit in the or highlighted in the Hinayana tradition. So because it contains these instructions on how to genuinely develop the aspiration for enlightenment and then move towards it, it's superior than just seeking nirvana for oneself.
Yeah, so talking about like how to preserve all the teachings of the Buddha. Like if I am only looking for the elimination of my own
Right.
suffering, and then I won't be learning a lot. I will just like pick up some
Just
methods
enough.
and then
Yeah.
just apply to myself.
Yeah.
That'll be enough. And even like, okay, in this small vehicle, like, we just practice the Four Noble Truth, on the cessation of suffering and the way to attain the cessation of suffering. That will be enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So I
that's
only will be learning all these like several methods to apply to myself. And also like if anyone comes, I have to show them or help them in that reason. And then I can only provide
mm,
these limited methods that I have learned or that I have trained, when during the practice. So uh, to kind of like uphold all the teachings of the Buddha, this is more like it's very unlikely,
mm.
in this small vehicle
Yeah, there's not as
tradition.
big of a motivation, you know. If I only have to deal with my own problems, then once I've dealt with them, there's not much more I need to learn. But if I have to deal with everybody's problems, then I have more incentive to learn various ways and for different kinds of obstacles and afflictions and things that I might not normally encounter just in my own world.
Yeah, so talking about this superior is not like I'm looking down
Yeah.
on this small vehicle. It's just like to talk about the bringing benefits, to more people. From that reason, I say, okay, Mahayana, in that reason, compare with
It's
the small
more
vehicle.
encompassing.
Yes, of course. Okay, so talk about this Prasankika and compare with this Svatantrika. Like, okay, why this is also like superior? Yeah.
Well, I think in this case, because they were just, refuting everyone. I think no one can win, philosophically. So I think they were like, oh, we got the superior one because we won the debate. But maybe you have a more nuanced answer.
Okay, so yes, but you can say that because you're not falling into anything. So people say like so there is no standpoint,
Yeah,
as a Madhyamaka Prasankika practitioner or a debater or commentator,
yeah,
you have no standing points.
yeah,
You're just like negating everything.
yeah.
You're just like refusing any points. No, no, this is not the reason. This is just like to bring out all these wrongly views,
Mm,
and then something will stand out itself. That's from Madhyamaka Prasankika. And of course, when talking about superiority, compared with this Svantantrika, is because they also emphasizing on this how to say there must be something that is intrinsically existing, meaning like for example like terms to describe ultimate truth, for example. You can't even like eradicate them or just like delete them. They have to have all these terms to describe, right? Or like basic concepts for you to use to apply when explaining
mm.
ultimate truth. So if you take away all these, then how to describe? So and they all these terms, all these concepts, they have their nature. Okay,
Hmm.
they have their definitions, they have their meanings. Yeah, so you can't just eradicate them. Okay, so like Madhyamika Prasankika practitioner, can
Can
yeah,
I?
explain this part?
Maybe not. But I think when I when I explain this, I often say, the words and such are they're also dependent
Yes.
on people having a consensus that
Hmm.
they mean something. And so they have a function that we've attributed to them. Their function is in that label in the word. And we could say the same is true of objects as well, like cup or microphone or computer, because it functions as that thing. And also people, beings function that way. I think when the lower schools were trying to assert that words or phenomena have some sort of objective or external component to them that is coming from its own side. I think for Prasangika, Madhyamaka, it just completely negates that and said uh, even enlightenment itself is a dependent origination,
Yes.
right? Even nirvana itself, in the lower schools, they say it's an unconditioned state. But how do
Mm.
you get to an unconditioned state? Through conditions,
Yes.
right? If there's conditions to enter an unconditioned or attain or, be in this kind of state or become this state, then it's a conditioned state because it's requiring steps,
Hmm.
right? It's requiring a process. So I think you can see it that way too, that Prasangika and Madhyamaka said everything is just a continual process. Doesn't mean it's nothing, doesn't mean it doesn't have any meaning, but ultimately in the end, it's not fixed, you know.
And then talking about
Mm,
this two truth.
mm,
So in Madhyamika Prasangika, like of course ultimately, like it's empty. Yeah. But when talking about these empty, it means like there are many possibilities.
right.
So I'm not saying like they are completely annihilating, so nothing exists. But I'm talking about, relatively, they have their functions. Relatively, they are existing.
Mm,
Relatively, they are creating some sort of meaning. So in conventional part, they're still important. Yeah. So we can't just like, okay, these everything is empty,
mm.
so even like to destroy things is fine, because there is no
There's no
intrinsic meaning of
consequence.
everything,
Yeah.
right? So we just like destroy the world, that's
Yeah.
fine. No, it's not like that. Yeah, relatively, this world is important. Relatively, we have to use this body and mind to cultivate ourselves and to attain so-called enlightenment. Even enlightenment is relative, is how to say relatively existing
Yeah.
in terms of like eradicating all sufferings. So we say like this is nirvana,
Mm.
right? So and then here will be very important. I think we just like quickly go through this four. I think this
The
four
greatnesses.
yeah,
Yeah.
greatness. Yes.
Mm.
So
And the greatness of these instructions of this text has four aspects. The first of these is the greatness of recognizing all teachings as non-contradictory.
yeah. And
And
then
that's what we'll go into. And so
so
how everything in the Gina has said is non-contradictory.
okay, so yeah, so quickly talking about this, this is first will be like the teachings are not contradictory.
Mm,
And then to talk about this, we say like this teachings they can apply into actually day
right.
practices. Like I can use all these methods. These are workable methods. These are like philosophical
Very
points.
nice idea.
Yeah, or nice ideas. Very beautifully addressed. No, that not like that.
Mm,
And to talk about like after learning all these teachings, we will be able to understand the real intent
mm,
of the Buddha.
mm,
Like we read ourselves. Like for example, like we have learned this Lamrim Chemo or Lamrim, the stage of the path, then we will be able to actually decipher or to actually understand the other teachings. Like even though we really have no people to actually explain to
mm,
us, but we will be very carefully reading the sutras. Yeah, and then we will know, okay, there must be some intent and like intent of the Buddha to say so. because you have all these how to say points that you have learned. You can actually how to say reflect that to this, and then okay, these two are relevant.
Mm.
So you can say, okay, so the Buddha must be based on this intention to say so. Yeah, you will have this kind of ability to do that. And finally, the fourth one will be what? Like you will know, like all the teachings of Buddha will be important. So there is not like, okay, this one is the best, this is less
Choosing,
perfect. You will not be, how to say, denigrating
yeah, signing or denigrating, right?
denigrating
Yeah.
the Dharma. Yeah. So you will respect all the teachings of the Buddha. If you don't know about certain teachings, you will be very objective. You will say, okay, maybe this part I don't know. Yeah. But for my understanding, the Buddha won't have like any teachings that contradict to each other.
Yeah.
So I will be very carefully when talking about something that I don't know.
Mm.
Yeah, then I will not like jump into conclusion saying, no, this is not
Yeah.
important. Oh, this is not really for us now, maybe for in the future. No, we won't jump into that conclusion. We'll be very objective and saying, like, I think the Buddha has his point when talking about this to address in this way, and that we have to verify it. And before that, I really dig into it, and I would say like this part, I really don't know. Yeah, probably after verifying it, I will be able to explain.
Mm.
And there must be no contradictory, according to the prior points. The teachings of the Buddha shouldn't be contradictory
Mm.
to each other. Okay, so I think that will be pretty much for today,
Okay.
Venerable.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the greatness of the teaching is because of so, but the detail will be
Mm.
mentioned. But we also have to tell everyone that we will have a summer break
Yes.
after this one.
Yes. So it'll be a couple of months before there's another video.
Yes.
So
So yeah, and for those who are watching, probably the next
uh,
episode will come,
yeah, couple
so there
minutes.
will be no difficulties for you to wait.
Yes.
But for you, like following very tightly, yes, you will have to wait for 2 months,
Yeah.
maybe, yeah, to have a new one released. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's
Dedication. So may the merit gained from this practice adorn the Buddha's Pure Land. May it repay the kindness of parents, sentient beings, teachers, and the triple gem from above, and relieve the suffering of those in the hell, hungry ghosts, and animal realms below. May those who see or hear of this practice generate the aspiration for ultimate enlightenment. When this life ends, may we be born together in the land of ultimate bliss. We pray to all Buddhas of the 10 directions, past, present, and future, to all Bodhisattvas and Mahasattvas, Mahaprajna Paramita. Thank you
thank you,
very much.
Venerable.
Thank you.
Thank you.